will check. Okay, we should be live now. I'm just getting off the... Hi everyone, hi Facebook family. I truly believe that the sound is good, the pictures are good, and you can see, hear us. Tonight it's Monday. Every Monday, usually at 6 o'clock Bulgarian time, we start with our broadcasting. And today, our special guest is Nicole Atiers. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Atiers or
You got
Atiers?
it.
Hey,
Yes.
thank you. So she's the third Canadian, my guest, since I start doing the broadcasting once again. But before we go any further, I just want to make sure that we are connected with Facebook and we are live there, not just me and Nicole talking to each other. Okay. Yes, we're live. Thank you. So you're very welcome. My name is Galia Yakimova. I'm your well-being concierge. What I'm doing here, it's something different. I've been doing these interviews with regards to the business while back, and recently started, and the reason for that is Robert J. Moore, who lives in Canada, and this is the Canadian link, I can say. And I'm very, very happy that actually we reconnected once again. And what I'm trying to do and to achieve for you, because it is all bonus for you, introducing you different professionals from different fields who are experts in their own niche, and they're here to share their experience with you, to empower you, to help you. So please, whatever questions appeared in your mind watching us live or later on replay, put your questions down, ask, like, share. And in this way, we never know who we will help if it's not help for you at the moment. So tonight it's Nicole Atiers with me. And who is Nicole? Beautiful young lady, as you see, but it is much more behind this, behind the scenes, as we say. She has the honor bachelor degree on psychology. But having psychology in her degree, in her belt, she was doing so many different things in life. She is also in YouTube. She has her own channel in YouTube. She's a columnist on Sun, Canadian Sun newspaper. Also, she will add more what she does and who she's writing for. And it is all about sales, as she trains people on sales, but also cold calls, which for me were the actually worst part of the business. And me, as many others, I believe, starting the business, sales is very important. I wouldn't say actually as important is for the business that I can do it or I was good. I'm still not at the level as Nicole going to share with us tonight. So Nicole, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. So yes, I mean, cold calls are brutal for a lot of people. They don't like to do them. They don't like to deal with the rejection, right? Like that's the main thing. People hate to deal with rejection. No, I'm not interested. No, this isn't a good time. I have to wash my hair. Like whatever excuse they give you, right? And this is why people say, well, oh, it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. So, I'm going to email instead. I'm going to go on social media instead. But I always try to tell people that's great for getting in the door in sales, but you need to pick up the phone. You need to have that live communication, that connection. You can't do that through a computer screen, right? This is what I always say.
Thank you so much, because you brought here connection, and connection and communications are actually the key for any successful relationship or business shape. So this is, and I will ask you to dig a little bit more there. And I believe that the psychology degree helps you here a lot, because firstly, we work with life material, and this is the human being, and we know the psychic of human being, how tricky can be sometimes, and particularly when it's not in the area where you feel confident.
For sure, for sure. We're challenged all the time. And, you know, as we know with the learning I did in psychology or just anyone going to school, if that's all textbook, right? The real life learning is completely different. Like
True.
textbook is great. You identify this and identify that. And, you know, but that doesn't really cut it. It's your experience at the end of the day. That's what it is, right? It's the
It's
experience.
absolutely. It's absolutely. So I would like to start with this question first. Identity, success, it's in our identity. And this is the theme of my broadcasts. What do you agree with that? Because I believe that when we discover our gifts and talents, and when we put all the efforts into our goals, then success, it, doesn't come immediately, but definitely comes. So I really would like to hear your opinion on this.
Sure. I believe that success is something that you strive towards. You get, you know, everything is step by step. You know, where you were 6 months ago is different from where you were like 2 years ago. But the point is, we want to, I know what you mean with identifying with it. And I think it changes as we grow, as we learn. And the more we identify with that, again, it's the next level. Everything is steps. That's the best way I can, you know, describe that. It's all about steps and then identifying with the new self at this time and then 6 months down the road and et cetera, right? Everything is incremental.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And cold call services, to dig a little bit more here. And what exactly does it mean? I'm really sorry, because I wanted to share one of short videos which Nicole made it, but we will put the link later on you to have better understanding. But
Sure.
Nicole, please go ahead, tell us a little bit more.
Okay, so with the cold call services, what we do is we do business to business calls mainly. So we work with companies that have a growing sales team. So that could be 3 people, 4 people, 10 people, whatever it is. And we want to help them get in the door and schedule first meetings. So through COVID, we got used to doing the whole Zoom thing, but I think people are getting more comfortable getting out there, meeting with people face to face. It's way more powerful. It's way more powerful. But that's what we do. So, you know, you need X amount of meetings before certain things transform into a deal or to business. And that's our focus, right? That's what we do. So I have a couple of younger people helping in this regard, and it's all business to business.
So you're teaching sales.
Mm-hmm.
Do you coach people at the same time? Because we have, I think, plenty of issues. Each individual are different one, but fear is the one actually which controls pretty much our lives. And if the fear is there in our business, if it's a fear to pick up the phone or to speak with people, then things are really can go in the very wrong direction.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I do coach, but I don't like the word coach just because there's coaches for everything these days, right? Like there's coaches for everything. But what I just say is I focus on the education and the training. So I try to understand, you know, where is someone at? You know, my background is also real estate, commercial real estate. So I work with a lot of sales reps, and in that industry, there's a ton of people that make cold calls, right? So, you know, I try to understand, you know, where are they at? You know, are they comfortable on the phone? Do they have a system? I mean, the first thing I try to tell people is have a system so that you expect rejection as part of that system. And what do I mean? You're going to make X amount of calls to X amount of people per week. Have a system in place so that regardless of what happens, regardless of the rejection, the hangups, the leave me alone, like whatever happens, right? Regardless of all that, you have a system to work from. And that's the first step, so that you detach from, all the craziness you hear over the phones. That's the very, very first step. And I get people comfortable with that. And then the next step would be, okay, what's actually happening? What are they actually telling you? What are the objections? Like, what's going on? And then we take it from there. Everything in steps, or else it becomes very overwhelming and people get discouraged.
It is true. And particularly, okay, so you might be okay to pick up the phone or to go in the live meeting and meet with a person and have beautiful conversation, and we need to close the deal.
Right.
But closing the deal, I think, it's the most challenging part. And if you're not comfortable with the money and offering your product or services, and if you're not comfortable with the amount of money which you believe is the right one to charge the client, so what happens then?
That's a big problem. And I think that's a problem for new entrepreneurs. I don't think that's the same problem for corporate. Like I mentioned, I do business to business,
Mm.
but this is a huge problem for new entrepreneurs because they don't know their own value yet, right?
Mhm.
And they have to feel comfortable kind of asking and then get used to doing that, right? Back to the success is your identity. It's like it's steps, right? So
Mm.
going back and then just, knowing what those numbers are and then just saying it. You're not kind of detaching from the self and the business versus, you know what I mean? Because if you don't do that, then you're always going to undercut yourself.
But that's what is happening, and this what actually I myself been struggling with. So this is another reason why I really like that you agreed and we are doing this interview, because I know what I went through, and the idea is we to save the new entrepreneurs to cut actually this time of struggling with how to get the real price for their products, and do not feel overwhelmed, do not feel rejected, do not struggle with other emotions, because everything, as you said, everything is related actually what our outbringing was, so
Oh
what our
yeah.
past was. And if we still have these doubts, definitely they're going to reflect when we hit the moment before we shake the hand with our prospect.
It's true, but I think what kind of helps in this way, to solve part of this problem is, understanding what your competition is doing. So what are the competitors asking for? And why are they asking for that? And, treating it like that versus personalizing it. But I also understand what you're saying. It's a confidence thing too. And that will kind of, you can't push that away. So I do agree with that. There's both factors, I think. But I think for people who are first starting out, maybe understand what the competitors are doing so that they can just look at it for what it actually is, a service or a product. And
So
then,
firstly, sorry, go ahead.
no,
I,
I'm good. I'm good. That's it.
so firstly, knowing their product and knowing the value of their product,
Yes.
and to do the research and see what the competitors are doing, and then to stay firm once they say the price, and in order to close the deal, and to believe in themselves and to believe in their product, because if the belief is missing, then it's all about energy, and the other side always will pick on it. And if they're more experienced, definitely they will take over. So there it's going to be kind of clash, which we often don't see it, but we see the results. We bear the consequences afterwards.
It's
So
true. It's true what you're saying. And I think it's through time, because initially I've had problem with this too. But now it's like if someone says to me, well, you know what, it's too high, or I don't want to do it. In the past, I might say, okay, well, let's try to work something out. And sometimes it's actually to your benefit to do that. But in other cases, it's like, seriously, you want to cut this in half? Like, excuse me, what are you doing? Right. So it's kind of understanding where you're at too. Because now it's like, okay, fine. If you don't see my value, goodbye, go. I don't want to do it anymore. Right. But in other instances, it might take a little work and take a little time and explaining, and then you decide what makes sense. But I would have never done that a few years ago. I would have never done that. And then people know you through time over the years. They see your changes, they see your success and where you are. And then if you have those same people coming back to you when you were first starting, and then they want to undercut you, it's like, you know what? No, if you see the changes now, like I'm thinking about somebody as I'm answering this, right? Then why do you want me to undercut myself so much? Right? So then you just let it go and you move on to other prospects that actually see something in you. Can't spend too much time there.
good. This is very good, actually, advice. And what you can, because we started a little bit advising the new startups, but there are people who have so much passion, great ideas. They don't have the experience more often in the business. They might come from the corporate world, or being working for someone, and it is so much to learn, so much to learn. But this is the key. The sales is the key, and to enter into the psychology, how to do it, and how do not give up. And particularly when the prospects are trying to undervalue, to undercut um, what our suggestion. So few steps you can give to those new startups, and particularly now when we live in very, very challenging times.
I would say make sure you're around those people who support you. That's just
Okay.
the number one thing to do, because, as you mentioned, upbringing and things like that. I've had people say to me, well, why don't you get a real job? you know, and then
What
I'd
does it mean?
go and then I'd go off and I'd feel like crap for days. Like, they just told me to get a real job. Like, what am I doing? Like a Mickey Mouse like business, right? And a lot of people go through that. A lot of my friends have gone through a lot. I've gone through that, and I still have those hangups because, I don't fit in the mold, as they say, right? And it can cause a lot of stress. And it has caused me stress in the past. For sure, it has. Right? What are my parents going to say? What are my brothers going to say? What are my, other people going to say? And it's an awful feeling. So
And
I
the failure, the
yeah,
failure, the
the
fear.
best thing to do, it's fear, yeah, and the best thing to do would be, find those people who support you and what you're doing, and who have, I would say, also more experience than you. You don't want to get advice from people who have no experience, who support you, but they can't help you, right?
Absolutely.
Right, like, so it's like people who could support you and mentor you and help you, but who know more than you, I would say.
And who trust you as well, because
Of
the trust
course,
issue is very important.
of course,
Yes,
you
and
have to
what
trust them.
else? Thank you. And what else, the other steps for those people? And we can include here people who are dealing with the properties, because properties, no matter what is going on with the economic worldwide, property business, it's number one.
I would say in that, let's go back to the cold calling, because that's very big in the real estate world. That's how things are done. And I know with the do not call list right now, people are scared. Well, what if I don't want to commit a crime, right? But there are ways to do it. And I would say that's the very first thing for them, is to pick up the phone, speak to people in a very careful way, of course, but that's number one for realtors. They can't get in any other way. They need to speak to people regularly over the phone. I mean, I train this stuff. I see it, right, with the reps. That's what they have to do. And it's just sticking through it. And as I said earlier, having a system in place. For example, Sunday night, source out your leads, and then Monday to Friday, 20 cold calls to new people per day. That's 100 per week, as an example. That's
And if you hear no, 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 and then
there's a certain amount of no's, right? You're going to get, let's say for every 15 no's, you get, okay, I'll meet with you. I say you're doing pretty well, right? So it doesn't matter. It's expected, right? Understand what those numbers are and just stick with it like a machine, right? Or just be a machine about it. Stick with it, follow up. You're going to get in. It happens. This is what people do in real estate. This is what they do. So.
And when you reach the point to close the deal, you just be firm with your price.
Be firm with your price, but everything is in writing. Everything is in writing, right? That's one of the things they taught us. What is in writing is what protects you and the other party, but everything is in writing. So again, like with real estate, I don't know that you are negotiating, but I think in certain areas things are set, right? So you it's a combination. I don't want to confuse people, but yes,
Sure.
stick to what, back to your point, yes, stick to what your offer is.
Okay. Wonderful. So you just in 2 days, on the 18th of May, you are having workshop.
Yeah.
And you still have available places in this workshop?
Yes, I do.
Okay, wonderful. I'm not sure. Usually, I think we can see if there are any questions, and can you do? We will talk a little bit more about the workshop now, but can you
Sure.
do something special for the first person who jumped and asked questions, for example, right now?
I could do that for 2 people, Galia.
Okay,
2
wonderful. Thank you.
people.
So I could do that for, sorry, 2 people who actually put any comments or ask questions. You can give them free. Okay, now please listen, hear this very well. Nicole is giving 2 places for free for her workshop on the 18th of May, which is what time? We will put the link as well.
Yeah, it's 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
So this is Canada time?
Correct.
Okay,
Toronto
12 p.m. Just to get it this right, 12 p.m. It's 7 p.m. Bulgarian time and 5 p.m. UK time. You people just get this right. But we'll give you more information about it. So for the first 2 people who actually engage here in the conversation during our interview, you're very welcome. And please write so we'll see your names. And what you're going to do in this workshop?
Well, the workshop's called, it's a webinar, but it's interactive. So it's very interactive, just like what we're doing here. Basically, it's called the top 5 tips for effective cold calling. And, everything from preparing your script, what you're going to say, dealing with rejection, how many calls it takes to get in the door. And that looks very different for different industries. And just some, practical tips. And, people could come in with their questions as well. This is what I'm noticing. What do I do? It's an hour, but they're going to learn a lot in that short time. Very hands-on, very practical.
Wonderful. And what if somebody is interested to go? So do you do the workshops? Perhaps you do live person-to-person workshops in Canada, but do you do online? Do you do groups also?
Yeah.
If somebody's interested?
We do both. So it's like, if, usually it's corporate again, but, with individuals, I've done, small group training as well. I have a 5-week training program. I hate the word coaching, but it is that word is in there.
Come on.
Just for the reason I said, there are too many coaches out there. Coach for, I don't know, putting your makeup on. There's coaches for
True.
everything,
Very true.
right? But it's 5 weeks where, people come together and they learn, some new skills to try each week, and then come back and talk about, well, this is what I found over the phones. This is what's working. This is, some guy said this to me. How do I deal with that? Right. But it's through time and then implementing those, sales strategies over, the 5 week period. So I do have that as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we'll put the link, so we'll put the link to your website and your email address, and also link again to this webinar on the 18th. And what else? So there are many things, many questions actually in my head. And anything else you would like to add into what we discussed until now? Anything eventually I have missed from our
I know that you wanted to include my YouTube videos. I mean, maybe I can just invite people to the channel. They'll get a lot of different tips,
how we
sales.
can do that to the
Can
YouTube
add the
channel
link.
Okay,
Sure.
great, because there are plenty of videos there,
There
and
are.
you're also interviewing people who are different professionals as
Yeah,
well.
anything that kind of connects to, under the umbrella of communication and sales. I mean, everything pretty much does, right? Regardless of what you do for a living. But yes, that would be great. We can include that link for people.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, how is the property business in Canada?
Well, I'm not a practicing realtor doing this business. So I know things are changing with COVID. Things are changing. I'm not one to explain the details of this. I have to be fair. I'm not a practicing realtor right now. So that's
But
outside my realm. It is getting better though.
but I heard from the other lady, Marianne, who is going to be my guest on the 30th, that it's really going well, as well as in UK and in Bulgaria as well, but prices are really shooting the sky. So I wonder, which means that there are still a lot of money in the market moving around.
Absolutely.
Money never sleep. And people are more, it is very interesting actually. They're very cautious what they spend their money on. But actually, no matter how high the prices in the properties are, people still buying. That's what amazed me.
And you know what? Through COVID as well, leases don't end, right? Leases expire. So for those people who are in commercial real estate, leases always expire. So there's always a deal to be made, whether they're, increasing size or they're decreasing, right? There's
Sure.
always that steady flow in that respect, right?
And many people actually, they, particularly in UK, what happened, because many people have had to work from home, so they have to redo it, their properties, in order to make their own space as their study cabinet. From there, they to be able to work, to have their privacy. And that is the reason why actually during the COVID, they've been many flats and houses for sales, and people, they really upgraded what they had. It's very interesting movement, and this is during the last 2 years during the pandemic.
I've noticed that too. I mean, one of our clients is in the office furniture business, and although things have kind of went down a little bit, it's also, been, pretty steady. I mean, making cold calls for this firm, I've learned a lot about what's been happening, and deals were still being made regardless of the pandemic. So what you're saying is 100% true. And this is in the office realm. In
Yes.
residential, if that's happening in office, that was happening in residential for sure. People were also bored out of their minds. Like, I want to renovate my house during this time, right?
True.
So,
True.
yeah.
Well, we definitely, as everything is energy, the money, it's great energy in the money. And that was another question, actually, I was going to raise, because if we don't have confidence in ourselves, I'm just taking you a little bit back. If we don't have confidence in ourselves, if we don't have the experience in sales or to close the deals, and we don't understand money, or we don't understand the energy into the money, or we don't like money. So this is another big issue, by the
That's a
way.
problem.
Yes, it is a
Yeah.
problem. Yes. So then, there will be by the end no deal or undercutting deals for us if we really don't get this right and straight. And this is, I believe, one of the key ingredients of successful closing the deal process.
Yep, you're right. It's how you feel in the confidence level to ask for sure.
Yes.
If things don't just happen. Well, it's like someone saying, oh, well, I had a great meeting and I'm all pumped and excited. Well, did you close the deal? No, not really. Or, like, because this takes me back to when I was just, when I was younger and I was starting, and I'd be all excited and then nothing would happen. Well, so what
Mhm.
if you had a great connection and a great meeting? What came of that, right? So it does matter. I'm not, minimizing that. It matters a lot, but you're right. It's being confident and asking. It's all about asking and having a clear understanding of why you're having that meeting to begin with, and not getting, distracted all over the place.
Yes, exactly. If we're not concentrated, if we're not focused, and if we don't know what we want the outcome to be, we have to put this in writing. And what I will suggest from the coaching, part, is whatever challenges you see, you better write them down and see and get the understanding, because there are little hurdles on our way, creating or making the business happening. So because they could be the little stones which can turn the car around. So it is very important, because if we don't have this confidence in us, the other side will easily pick this.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then as we go for successful meeting, as we go in order to close the deal, because we want the best for us, and we believe that we have the best service to offer, the best, whatever we are selling
Product.
or negotiating, yes, product to offer, we will not succeed. Because what is the percentage? What statistics do you know? The businesses, the first 2-3 years, most of the businesses are failing, and there are many reasons behind. But one of the reason, is the confidence in us, in our product, in our services. So
Yeah.
we really, if we do have these issues, turn to the nearest therapist or coach and get this right and straight, and then turn to the call for the cold calls and make sure that very soon you'll be prepared to be successful. Because by
And I
then,
try to make it fun. I try to make it fun with these calls, because you deal with, like, half of them are like crazy and half of them are, you're going to get all kinds of lunatics on the phone too. And people are going to say things to you. You're like, really? This is what I'm hearing? Like, is this really happening? Like, there's some crazy responses I hear out there, right? But if you turn it into kind of like a game, and you understand that, then you're going to find a few of those people that are actually really nice to deal with, right? But there's a lot of craziness that you have to kind of, bypass to get in the door. There's a lot of that. And then that's the part that people can't stand. And I understand that.
Yeah, but that is very important. Why actually? What kind of thoughts we entertain in our mind? Because these thoughts will either serve us or disqualify us, calling people. Because if we do have the fear and if we think that the other side is going to close the phone, to reject us, or to say things, to throw something on us, do not take personally, because it's not you, but it is the other side, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, sometimes there is no need, right? They're not interested. And other times they don't even know if they're interested or not. They just don't want to deal with you that day or that particular time. So they'll say anything to get rid of you, right? But I've had those same people tell me, like goodbye, like try to get rid of me. And then, I follow up with them 3 months, 6 months later, and they're like, oh, thank you for your persistence. You know what I mean? Those same people who told me to, I don't know, go take a hike or whatever, come back and they want to talk to me at that time. And then other people, it's just not the right fit.
Yeah,
Right?
I remember one of my bosses in the past. I used to work for English big company. Actually, they're coaches and dealing with medium size of businesses, small and medium. And what he was saying, because he been in recruiting business, so we had just Tether last week, and he was speaking about something, big time recruiting and great niche. And he had his own recruiting agency, and he said, the local company, he been approaching them, they refused, wasn't the time, but he kept persistently sending emails reminding about himself. And it one day, this lady who been a woman running that big business, and she really needed a big change in the company, so she needed stuff. And she decided to call him first. And when he went, he been very curious, because it took 2 years, I think, uh, she to get to the point that she needs his services. And she called him and he asked her, why did you call me and you pick me, from the other big companies and big names? And the answer was, because you were so persistent. And when I started to search the company, I remember you and your emails that you never gave up.
It's true. And if I can just, I've heard that many times and it's so bang on correct. What I would advise too is, like, in that email that was sent to finally tip it over to make it happen, have that email trail each time that individual is following up with the recruitment firm or whatever firm. Have the trail, so it just shows that you were in communication and you don't have to start again because they don't know who you are anyway, right? So have that email trail showing. And that's just a little tip I'm letting, the audience here today know.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having you today. Uh, would you like to say your final words or final message to our audience?
I would just say keep going, don't quit, make it happen. And I really enjoyed our time today, Galia.
Thank you so much. So I believe that we'll have further conversations as well. Here now we're bringing you into different markets, the Balkans, UK. So I hope and I believe that many people will watch this video and will be beneficial to whoever needs this is in this particular niche and needs sales. Actually, it's not this particular niche, because sales and cold calls are for everyone, and it is a message actually to all of us. And Thank you so much to everyone who've been watching us live broadcasting and later on in replay. Please share, like, and share. As I said at the beginning, we never know who we will help. And by the end of the day, we are doing this for you to help you and those who really need. And as Nicole invited two of you, we'll look at later on and see who these people are to attend her workshop, I call workshop webinar on the 18th of May at 7 p.m. Bulgarian time and 5 p.m. UK time, but we'll make sure that you have the time right and you have all the links to her. So wishing you wonderful week ahead, wishing you great business and be really persistent, keep going and firm with your offers and with your prices. And please never give up, no matter what's going on in life. Never give up. Thank you, Nicole,
Thank
and
you.
see you soon, everyone. Bye bye.